Hello, welcome back to math class. This is your math teacher, Miss Silver Plata. I am so excited because although we are still in module 2, we are going to start a new topic. And this is topic B, right? In topic B in module 2, we are going to look at multi-digit decimal operations. And we are going to concentrate on adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So here we go, beginning with lesson 9. In lesson 9, we're going to start with sums and differences of decimals. In this lesson, you are expected to relate the decimals to mixed numbers. Okay, so fractions and decimals, we are going to see the relationship between the two. You are also expected to use your knowledge of adding and subtracting multi-digit numbers to find the sums and differences of decimals. So for lesson 9, we are concentrating on just two operations for now, addition and subtraction. You are also expected, okay, what we want to do is for us to understand the importance of place value and be able to solve problems in real world. So let's begin. Okay. First, a question. Can you describe circumstances when it would be easier to add and subtract mixed numbers by converting them to decimals first? Okay. All right. When fractions have large denominators, it would be difficult to find common denominators in order to add or subtract. Very true. Okay. Also, when a problem is solved by regrouping, it may be easier to borrow from decimals than fractions. And agree also. Okay. Another question. How can estimation be used to help solve addition and subtraction problems with rational numbers? Okay. Yes, using estimation can help predict reasonable answers. It is a way to check to see if an answer is reasonable or not. So in lesson 9, in this lesson, we are going to use estimation so that we can compare the actual answer and the estimation and how close they are so that we can say that our answer is reasonable or not. Okay, so let's start with vocabulary words. Okay, I know these are very familiar to you, but just to make sure that we still remember. Okay, so the first one is addends. What is addends? Okay, you remembered all the numbers that we add, those are called addends. So say for example, 5 plus 2 plus 3 equals 10. Which ones are the addends? The addends are 5, 2, and 3. All right? And the answer 10 is what we call the sum. Okay? Then we have subtrahends, minuends, and difference. Okay? What is this word right here? Now let me give you an example. Let's say I have 10 minus 8, just simple subtraction. 10 minus 8 is 2. Okay? Subtrahend is the number that you subtract from another number. And that first number right there is your minuend. The answer to a subtraction expression or problem is what you call the difference. Sum for addition, difference for subtraction. Okay? So which one is the subtrahend? That's the number you subtract from another number. In a subtraction expression, the first number is called the minuend. So just to be familiar with all these math vocabulary words. So let's begin. Like I said, we are going to use estimation because we said estimation actually helps us to see whether our actual answer is reasonable or not. Okay, so here we go. 25 and 3/10 plus 376 and 77 hundredths. Okay, so those two fractions are called what? The addends, and we are looking for the sum because we are adding. So let's start with estimation. Okay, so first let's convert the mixed numbers into decimals. Okay, I always tell my students the way you read your fractions is the way you read your decimals as well. So you write it the way you read it. Now, what do I mean by that? It's just so confusing, Miss Plata. Okay, here we go. So 25 and 3/10. If I write that as a decimal, the way I said it, read it, is the way I am going to write it. 25 and 3/10. Right? Tenths place. Okay? Plus 376 and 77 hundredths. See? In the hundredths place. 3/10, tenths place, hundredths place, 77 hundredths. Okay? So, convert mixed numbers into decimals. Got that done. Okay? Round the addends to the nearest whole number. So here is our addends. Round it to the nearest whole number. So that will be 25. That would be 376. What did they use here? I think they used 377. That's what I thought. Why did I say 77? Because the rule in rounding, I hope you remembered, if this is the number to be rounded, you need to go see the number to the right. If that number to the right is 5 or higher, then the number to be rounded goes up by 1. If not, it stays the same. So just a review. So now we have rounded, okay, and then we add them together, and that would be 402. What does that mean? Our estimate is 402. Okay, that's the estimated sum. Okay, all right. Then, got that down. Let's go to the exact answer. Okay, so it's a decimal number that we are adding, so make sure that we line up the addends appropriately using the place value. So what are my addends? 25 and 3/10 plus 376 and 77 hundredths. And then just add. Okay, be very careful when you add with your decimals. Make sure that they are lined up. And my answer is 7 here, 10, carry 1. Don't forget your decimal point right there. You have 12, carry 1. You get 10, carry 1. And your exact answer is 402 and 7 hundredths. Okay, so there's your actual answer. Here is your estimated sum. What do you think? Is our answer reasonable? Yes, they're pretty close. Our estimated sum is 402. The exact answer is 402 and 7 hundredths. So we use the estimation and the exact answer to know if our answer is reasonable or not. Okay. Now, let's try this one. This time, we have a fraction. What do you notice here? Yeah, different denominators. Okay, it's not in the place value that we know, the tenths, the hundreds, the thousands, no. Okay, so what do? We use decimal to solve, and we're going to use a fraction as well to solve. But before that, let us estimate first. So 426 and 1/5. What is the best estimate for that? So estimate, I'll write it down here, would be 426, okay? 275 and a half. What would be the best estimate? It's half, so instead of 275, that 5 goes up by 1, okay? So this is subtraction, be careful, okay? 426 minus 276 is 150. So 150 is our estimate, okay? So actual answer, first we'll use the decimals. 426 and 1/5, what is that in decimal? Okay, that means we convert to make sure that we have a place value like tenths and hundreds. So I'll take that 1/5, okay, and I am going to relate that into tenths place. What do I do to 5 to get a 10? Times 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So what does that mean? My 1/5 is now 2/10. So 426 and 1/5 is 426 and 2/10. All right? So that's decimals. Let's go to the next one, 275 and 1/2. So let's convert that 1/2, okay, into tenths. What did I do to 2 to get a 10? Times 5. So 1 times 5 is, so even if you don't do this, I know you know that 1/2 is 5/10. Yes, of course, okay. So my 275 and 1/2 is now 207, what happened? Very sensitive board. 275 and 5/10. Okay, so remember we are subtracting, be careful. So we subtract, make sure that our place values are aligned properly. Okay, so we subtract and the answer is 150 and 7/10. Okay, so you're in 6th grade, you can fluently subtract decimals. Okay, so that is using decimals. Now let's try on the other side. This time it's fractions. Okay, so 426 and 1/5 minus 275 and 1/2. Okay, now so that I have more space, I am going to convert this or rename my 1/5. We already did that here. So that 1/5 is now 2/10, correct? And that 1/2 is now 5/10. Okay, so we're going to subtract. Now what do we know? When we're subtracting a fraction, okay, first we make sure that they have the same denominator, which in this case, we have 10 as denominators, and they are the same. All right, then when we subtract the numerators and we keep the same denominator. Now in this case, I am subtracting 5 from 2. Can I do that? Yes, yes I can do that, but I need to do something first, okay, and that is borrowing, okay. So I am going to decompose my 426 because I am going to borrow 1 whole there. And that 1 whole, instead of 426, see, I have now 425. And the other one is 10/10. So 10/10 is 1. You remember that, right? So 1 and 425 is the same as 426. So I did not take away anything else. It's all there, okay? Now don't forget, you have 2/10 here. So what happens? I have 425. I'm going to put these two together. I now have 12/10. And with that, I can now subtract 275 and 5/10. See? 5 now can be taken away from 12. So you subtract your whole number. 425 minus 275 is 150. Okay? You subtract your numerator, 12 minus 5 is 7, and keep the same denominator. All right? So 150 and 7/10 fraction, 150 and 7/10 decimals. How is this related to our estimated sum? They are close. So what do you think about our exact answer? Yes, reasonable answer, because the estimated sum and the actual answer is very close. Okay? So, on this next page, I want you to work, okay, on exercise 1 and 2 by calculating each sum and difference or difference. You are going to write an expression, the estimated answer, and the actual answer in that order. Okay? So beginning with number 1. Okay? So it's a word problem. I'm going to read it and you read along with me. I am sure your packet is in front of you right now. Okay? So here we go. Samantha and her friends are going on a road trip that is 245 and 7/50 miles long. They have already driven 128 and 53 hundredths miles. How much farther do they have to drive? So my question for you before we do anything, what type of problem is this? Is this an addition problem or a subtraction problem? Yes, this is a subtraction problem, okay? Because you know that on this road trip, okay, it is going to be 245 7 over 50 miles long. So it gave you the whole thing, and they have driven a part of it already. Then it's asking you how much more farther do they have to drive. So it's a subtraction problem. So let's start with the expression. Okay. We are subtracting 245, okay, 7 over 50ths minus 128 and 53 hundredths. Okay. Now we're going to estimate by rounding to the nearest whole number. If I have 245 and 7/50ths, that is, yes, 245. And this one, this is more than half, so that is 129. So our estimated sum would be 116. There you go. Okay. Now, to find the actual answer, I would use a decimal. I'm going to rewrite the expression as a decimal. So, remember, you need to find out or convert the fraction into decimal where the place value is tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on. So in this case, my 7/50ths, let me write that down. Okay, 50, so that's very close to hundredths. Okay, what do I do to 50 to get to 100? Times 2. So 7 times 2 is 14. So when I write this as a decimal, that would be 245 and 14 hundredths. See? Now be careful. We are subtracting. We are not adding. This is already in the hundredths place, so all I need to do is to write it down. 128 and 53. So go ahead, subtract your decimals. What did you get? Yes, you do it correctly, you will get 116 and 61 hundredths. Okay. Now, remember, this is our estimated difference, and this is our exact answer. How do you see the relationship of the two? Reasonable answer, they are very close, so our answer is very reasonable. All right, so let's answer that question. How much farther do they have to drive? They have to drive 116 and 61 hundredths miles more, okay, to complete their drive. All right, next, number 2. Let me erase this. Okay, and let's look at number 2. Now in your packet, I'm sure it's more clear to look at that instead of the screen. I don't know how to do this. Make it bigger. All right, so I'm going to read. You read along with me with your packet in front of you. Number 2, Ben needs to replace 2 sides of his fence. One side is 367 and 900ths meters long, and the other is 329 and 3/10 meters long. How much fence does Ben need to buy? So the first question is this an addition or subtraction problem? Yes, we are adding this time. Okay, so what's the expression? What are we adding? We are adding 367 and 900ths, okay, plus 329 and 3/10. Okay, so we estimate, we are adding, so let's find the estimated answer here. So what is the best estimate for 367 and 900ths? Yes, 367. What about 329 and 3/10? Okay, 3/10 is less than half, so plus 329. So you add those two together, you get 696. So this is our estimated sum. Okay, so let's find out the actual answer. This is in fractions, so let's use a decimal. Okay, so 367 and 900ths. Be careful, okay? If I wrote 9 instead of a 0 there, then you are just in the 10th place. This is hundredths place. So be very careful. All right, the next add-in is 329 and 3/10. So make sure that you lined up your place value correctly, because if you don't, you are not going to be to get close to your estimated answer. And then you add, that's a 9, 3, 7 plus 9, 16, 1 plus 6 plus 2, 9, and 3 plus 3 is 6. So this is your actual answer. How is your actual answer compared to your estimated sum? Very close. So is this reasonable? Very reasonable. Okay, so let's answer that question. How much fence does Ben need to buy? Ben need to buy 696 and 39 hundredths meters long of fencing materials. Okay? All right. So for problems or exercises numbers 3 and 4, I want you to do that on your own, but make sure that you follow the same format where you write the expression first, you estimate the sum or the difference, and then you show your work for your actual answer, and then to compare your estimated answer to your actual answer and see if your answer is reasonable or not. Okay. Now there are 5 exercises here in this lesson 9. I ask you to work on problems 3 and 4 because that 5, the last one, I want us to work on that together because this is a little different. Okay, it says here Use a calculator to convert the fractions into decimals before calculating the sum or difference. In the past examples or exercises, what we did was convert the fraction to decimals. Okay? This time, it's asking you the same thing, but the fractions given here is different. 1/3, 3/8. Okay? It's easier to convert a while ago from fraction to decimal because we can also already see the compatibility of the numbers, and we can convert it easily to tens, hundreds, and thousands, and so on, so we can see the correct place value. But in this case, I have 1/3, I have 3/8. So it says use your calculator to convert your fraction into decimals. So here we go. Let's start by reading the problem first. Razel wants to determine how much gasoline he and his wife use in a month. He calculated that he used 78 1/3 gallons of gas last month. Razel's wife used 41 3/8 gallons of gas last month. How much total gas did Razel and his wife use last month? Okay, so the first question, is this a subtraction or an addition problem? All right, so this is an addition problem because it's asking you for total that they used last month. Okay. Also, aside from finding that out, you are also asked to round your answer to the nearest 100. Okay. So let's begin by writing the expression. Expression is 78 1/3. It's an addition problem, so plus 41 3/8. Okay. Now, remember there's a special instruction in this problem. It says use a calculator to convert. Okay, and we're going to do that when we go to the actual answer. Meanwhile, let's find the estimated sum. 78 1/3 is about 78, plus 41 3/8 is about 41. So our estimated answer would be 119. Okay, 119 gallons of gasoline, okay, that they consume. That is our estimated sum. Okay, so for the actual answer, it says let's use a calculator. Okay, 78 1/3 as a decimal. 78 and what is 1/3? So we are going to use a calculator. I have a calculator here. How do we do that? You get your numerator. Remember, it's 1/3. Your numerator divided by your denominator, which is 3. And that is your quotient. Are we going to write them all? No, we're not. We are just going to write it in probably thousandths place, and I'll tell you why I chose thousandths place later on. So remember that 78, that 1/3 is 3, 3, 3, and it doesn't end, right? So I'm going to stop at the thousandths place. Meanwhile, I have 41 3/8. Remember, we are adding. But what is 3/8? So let's get that calculator back here again. Okay. And it says 3/8. Numerator 3 divided by denominator 8 is 375 thousandths. So in decimal, that 3/8 is 375 75 thousandths. And that is exactly the reason why I stopped at thousandths place in the first addend. Okay, so given this, we have to add those two addends, and if you line them up correctly, correct place value, your answer would be 119 and 71 gallons of gas. Okay, now what do you say about your actual answer to your estimated answer? Your actual answer is reasonable because it is very close if you compare it to your um, estimated sum. All right, so as we end this lesson with this question, which exercises would be easiest if the addends, minuends, or subtrahends were converted to decimals? We go back to all those problems and we found out that the exercises number 1, number 2, and I would say number 4, the one that you did, would be the easiest if the terms were converted to decimals before finding the sum or difference. Because remember the other one we did it using fraction, okay? So number 1, number 2 exercise, and number 4 are easiest when the numbers are converted to decimals first, okay? Now, remember in your packet you have exit ticket, you have problem set that you can use for more practice so that you can master this lesson. All right, so that's the end of lesson 9. Stay safe, don't touch your face, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye.